Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CISO Talk. My name is Mitch Ashley, CTO with TechStrong Group and principal with TechStrong Research. Of course, here today with my partner, JJ Minella. Jennifer, welcome. Always good to be on with you, which is a great topic, which we have today. So let's kick in. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just so excited. I was going to jump right in there because I wanted everybody to meet Britta and Kacy, who are two awesome humans I have known for several years now. And I thought maybe you guys could introduce yourself, Britta, if you want to start.
You bet. My name is Britta Glade, and I am Vice President of Content and Curation with RSA Conference.
And I'm Kacy Zurkus, and I am Senior Content Manager with RSA Conference. And Britta and I together are the content team.
The masters of content for our That's awesome. And both of you been on different TechStrong activities, interviews, content before. So thank you for coming back again.
It's great to be here with a wonderful partner.
TechStrong loves partnering with you all for the conference. We'll be in Broadcast Alley and doing some fun stuff there too. So, Kate, we're lucky because JJ has kind of an insider perspective because she participates in so much of this with you. And why don't you start out, JJ? Love to have you kick it off.
Sure. Well, you guys said you queens of content over there. You've had some interesting keynote announcements for this year, and I'm kicking myself in the butt and in the head daily because this is the first RSA in many years I'm going to miss. So why don't you kind of tell us about how you got those and specifically some of the brain candy keynotes that you have.
You bet. And I know Mitch was one that you were bummed to be missing this year. He's great. I mean, you know him. Obviously, you followed him. This is one of these, by demand bringing back. He was on the RSA conference stage, I think it was 12, 15 years ago, and still maintains one of the top ratings on that stage. So we thought, let's bring him back. So he will be part of the lineup. Eric Idle, for all you Monty Python fans, Eric Idle will be here. And he's fun. When we were doing the prep call with him, we were laughing, we were crying, we were interjecting this amazing mind. And he'll be talking really about how the Monty Python show came to be. But as a course of that, you get into teamwork, you get into working together, you get into working through difficult things. And then he'll really take you through some other elements of his life, which I think will be interesting. And then just last week, we announced that Christopher Lloyd will be joining us. When we were looking at thematically, and I think we'll touch on this later in the discussion, all the submissions that came through. Quantum, this is the year of quantum. If ever there was a year, this one's it. And, who really is kind of the father of quantum in Hollywood? Doc Brown. So we started building the Hugh Thompson show around Christopher Lloyd, and we'll have some real quantum experts joining him and then really get into that journey with him. So those are three of the fun highlights that'll be happening on the keynote stage.
And then additionally, that, may not be as big name, but super fun. What does the universe sound like with Dr. Matt Russo? That just seems so beautifully interesting to me. And of course, everyone is talking about AI these days. And so security as part of responsible AI at home or at odds is another one that's on my radar as a must see.
Kacy, last year there was one, and I don't remember the title, but I think she was a musician.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meryl Goldberg.
Because can people go watch that recording?
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. Yes. Let's talk about that too.
Yeah, and they can see Britta playing the piano with Dr. Meryl Goldberg. Yes.
Wow.
Dr. Goldberg, she is a gem. And I do think this is going to be one of those stories that, 5 years from now, we're all going to see a great Netflix movie about her, and we're all going to be cheering because RSA Conference is where, her story was first told. That one is in the library. If you just go and search Goldberg, you'll find it. We'll drop you a link so you can find that one. But she's actually working on writing a book right now on her whole experience and what she did. And the story is interesting. The individual is amazingly awesome. And it's one that, you don't want to miss following Dr. Goldberg's story.
Yeah, so many great keynotes every year. And I'm just going to be transparent. I know you guys get some feedback, like the minority, a few people here and there that say, we think all of the content should be security related. And I personally, as somebody on the program committee, completely disagree with that because, we are whole humans and we are securing an entire world that includes everything. And I think if nothing else, that opportunity, you guys have called it the brain candy talks, just to get us thinking a little bit differently, or sometimes thinking about different things, which I think is really healthy. And I personally love that content.
And to that end, too, one theme that came through very strongly across all of the submissions, regardless of the track, was this idea of storytelling. And so another keynote that speaks to that, whole human experience is how your brain responds to stories with Karen Eber. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name, but the idea of storytelling as important to the industry is really getting a lot of traction. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you addressed that too, because it's really easy to get locked into a school of thought, kind of create a bubble around us of security or whatever our discipline is. And, the whole TED Talk conference proved why bringing diversity of experiences, just as one example. I love what you're doing. I also want to find out finally how the flux capacitor works from background. So I hope he addresses that, just to get a little geeky.
We actually did. Talk. We had our prep call with him last Friday, and I think, Mitch, there will be some answers to your question. I am pretty sure.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Oh, that's worth the price of admission right there. That's awesome.
He's a brilliant man. He's a brilliant man, and I think it's going to be amazing. And Hugh does such a good job bringing the individual out of the conversation, and I think you'll see that in lights. And I do, I love, JJ, that you brought up these brain candy scenarios and some of the ones that Kacy's highlighted. We're introducing a new thing this year. For lack of a better term, I'm going to call them micro keynotes. It's a 5-10 minute little keynote synopsis as folks are coming in. Dr. Russo is part of that. Karen Eber is part of that, and there's two others that are really amazing that I'll highlight as well. But to get your brain to that different place, to get us thinking about things differently. Kacy mentioned the one from Karen and Dr. Russo. We've also got Claire Malone, who'll be joining us, who is a particle physicist from the UK. I don't
Look
want
at
to
JJ's face.
I don't want to totally steal the thunder on this one, but she
science
really,
with an accent.
yes. And this
couldn't be sexier.
This woman's amazing. She will take us through thinking about the universe differently, and her presentation of it will also take us to a very different place and show us why we need to approach things differently, why our different perspectives allow us to identify, see, experience things differently than how, we approach them. We all have our experience. We all have our backgrounds. We're a product of that experience, and that's the lens through which we see things. When we start, combining with different people, that's when the energy flows. That's when we have the opportunity to see things differently. And then the very last, micro keynote is Poet Ali. Poet is what he goes by, who will be talking about language. And again, the language that we have in common, language that we might have differently, but language is that bond that pulls us stronger, and how when we find those unifying elements, that's when we get to that next level. So I am so excited about the keynote lineup and where it will be taking us, leaning into this theme of stronger together.
So let me ask this, for those of us that can't be there in person for one reason or another, what are options for us or for people to attend either remotely or watch content after the fact? How does that work?
That we have an on-demand pass that is available. And with that on-demand pass, you're getting the keynotes that we are able to live stream. Some of these folks, depending on our contract with them, we can't live stream. We can only capture. We can capture and present highlights from. But generally speaking, on our website, particularly the sponsor keynotes, those will be streamed as they happen. Those with on-demand passes will have access to all of the content that we're allowed to push out within a few hours of when it happens live, and then all of that will be available, for folks with that pass type for 30 days in that gate.
Nice.
And then it goes to our library, ungated.
Really curious. Well, congratulations. That's an amazing and fantastic lineup, and man, you were setting the bar high. I mean, it is just awesome. I love what you're doing. I'm curious. Also, things are changing and moving in our industry constantly. We also talk about things we've, discussed for many years too. Are there any new themes that you're picking up on with submissions and talks? And of course, AI is hot, but also application security. What are some of those new areas that you're starting to uncover? People are asking to talk about.
Britta, I'll jump in with Greg and Paul's talk on chat GTP, which is, of course, really hot right now. But what's cool about this session is it's Greg Day, who's at Cyber Reason, and Paul Van, who is a soon to be graduate of the University of Virginia. And so they're taking these two very different perspectives of, a seasoned veteran in the industry and a very young soon to be college graduate, and looking at the potential threats and uses of chat GPT. And I think, as we've seen in the headlines that, Google and everyone else has come out with their sort of version of competitor of chat GPT. This isn't going away, and everyone wants to understand it and criticize it and also apply it in ways that, make it really a useful tool in their industry. So I think that's one really cool one that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Definitely. Yeah. And then from a trend standpoint, Mitch, it's interesting. We, as JJ knows, as part of our program committee, the fire hose was very open this year with submissions inbound. We had over 2,400. That's a lot of really thoughtful, really interesting perspectives coming in from across the industry, different perspectives, different ways of looking at things. And the program committee has to take us through all of that. They know they have, 12 sessions, 14 sessions, 16 sessions to fill a docket on a particular topic. So the discussions that happened, and JJ, I don't know if any blood was shed in your skinning down of what was ultimately picked for yours, but there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And while we, jokingly referred to Britta and Kacy at the beginning as the leads of the content, no, we are the custodians of over 150 different awesome program committee people across different functions, who those are the experts, those are the leaders, those are the folks really driving the content. And we just kind of, help steer the boat in the back to try to make sure that organizationally things get done. But, we saw a lot, understandably, Ukraine and Russia. From different vantage points, right? There's fraud things, there's different threats that have emerged. There's going to be one interesting, Wall Street Journal will be recording a podcast that, it's one of the convicted fraudsters and the federal prosecutor. And you're going to hear that story firsthand in a live setting, with a moderated conversation. There was a lot, as you said, about application security and different ways things are being approached. We looked, there was the shift right, there was shift left, there was shift center, there was shift everywhere, and some conversation and experiences and case studies against that. And then, Kacy, I know we were looking at open source, and that was so interesting. SBOM, of course, made its mark in legislation a couple years ago, May 2021, and the ripples of that are vast and wide. And you'll see that coming through in some particular sessions.
Yeah, and Mitch, I want to jump in here because I think people don't necessarily realize this. So and you said there's 150 of us now on between the committee.
Between all the different programs committees, there's over 150. Yeah.
Because there's the normal, what I consider the normal tracks. I don't know how you guys classify them. And then there's all of like the special things that are happening everywhere. But I know for the bulk of the content, the tracks are sort of figured out topically ahead of time. And then you guys do what I think is a lot of the heavy lifting of that first, making sure that the submission that comes in is complete and then assigning it to, okay, this could fit well in this track and this theme, or it could fit well in this one, sometimes multiple. And then, when they get to us, I think, so this year and in the past year or two, I've done the technology infrastructure and operations track, along with 2 partners in crime. And I think we had close to 200 that ended up in our track. And so the way that works is the members of the program committee, of which there are probably at least 3 for most of them, sometimes more, and they'll divide and conquer, like reads every one of the submissions. And these tables are, you're talking about a couple hundred submissions. And I think the columns go from like A through A.
Like AD, AE, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. And then what, and it is hard because usually by the time they get to us, they're all good. Right. That was like, we really struggled this year. And so much of the stuff we kept flagging and sending back to you guys, like, okay, we can't fit this in the track, but really
make sure someone does
a 365, webinar or do this or do that, or maybe make sure this track gets that. But so many great speakers and so many great topics, especially this year. I was just blown away because a lot of times in Blue Sky, we kind of go off and curate content. But then you guys, that work's not done because we review every version and revision of every slide deck of the speakers who we selected. And even if it's a panel, they have to submit, the questions and the flow with that. So every one of us are reviewing every one of those at each step along the way to make sure it is in line with, it's adding value, it's in line with the theme, and that it's not, thinly veiled marketing crap. So it is you guys do a ton of work. The program committee does a ton of work. And I think it's not just like this giant engine of people dump stuff into it and then there's a agenda that gets spit out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is, very altruistic on your part, JJ. You're underselling the huge responsibility it is to be a program committee member. And it's a volunteer position that is just a lot of amazing people who really care about the industry and sharing the right information with our audience every year. So
now I do have one question for you guys, because I think this is a good opportunity with a lot of the listeners. Because one of the things I know we're always looking for is like any professional who has done something and is willing to share a case study or how they did that. Maybe if you guys want to kind of talk about, because I think a lot of this audience is in the pool for offering that type of content. What are you looking for? Who should think about what? Where have there been gaps?
That is awesome. And I actually wanted to pull up a specific example because listeners, we do want to hear what you have to share. We've got one. So Nipur Davis, who's the CISO at Comcast, she'll be presenting a session. It's called Data Privacy Concerns, a risk-based approach to de-identification. It's her plus the Director of Privacy and Data Protection at Comcast. So these are 2 incredibly talented folks who will be sharing a 3-year journey of what they've gone through. Major organization, where have we found success? Where have we found bumps? How did we have to modify process? Obviously, with what they're talking about, it's multiple groups within the corporation that had to work together too. So the processes and things. This one, this actually bubbled up through our ESAF program. So ESAF is a closed-door invitation event for Fortune 1000 CISOs. Nupur has been an active participant there, and she said, "I really would love to share this experience with a broader audience because we've learned some serious lessons. We've gone through some challenges on our end. We'd love for people to learn from." So that's just one of those examples. But I think within it's the human thing, right? We always want to look like we got everything right and not necessarily show whoops, I stubbed my toe here. But those are the things we all tend to learn the most from. And those are the stories that people do really resonate and go to. There's also another one. And apologies, I'm looking at the other screen. I want to make sure I'm getting all this right. So the CISO for Pitney Bowes will be sharing a session, The Devils in the Data, Role of Data Governance and Cyber Risk Mitigation. He actually presented last year at conference, super well-received session. Again, a CISO in the trenches, sharing specific experience, specific lessons learned. As you know, JJ, as you look at every deck, and thank you so much for all those reviews of decks, it's super important. We ask that the last slide of every RSA conference presentation be an application slide. What are you going to do as a result of what you learn? Because we're very committed to that neutral educational content, but also something you can take and do with what you learn. You can go back in 2 weeks, here's what I'm going to do. In 3 months, here's what I'm going to do, because we really do want to help move that needle in the industry. So people sharing experiences, people sharing, exactly what they've done within their organizations. Those are such valued presentations that we love to see come through.
Really does. I've not been on the program committees, but I've been a submitter and gone through that revision process. And it really makes you think. For this last slide, I needed to bring it home, right? What is it that is useful from what I'm talking about that's going to make a difference for you? And trying to crystallize that, there's no easy process, but I think it's super important, really valuable.
And I think also just, from a sort of guidance perspective on shaping the content, knowing that is where you want to end, you can begin with that. Right? Like, what are the next steps that I want people to be able to take away? And then that helps to actually inform the content that you're delivering at conference. So I think it's a good guide for your development of curriculum too.
It is. And we know that a lot of people, they're the one from their team gets to attend conference. So they're taking their they're whatever they're learning, they're going home and sharing with their whole group. So that's another reason I really like that application, because they're then helping their groups to take and learn along with them and set goals for the group and set things that they need to be doing, researching more about, activities they need to be engaging in. So that's a super important part of the content.
That's an unintentional but fantastic segue to what Mitch and I wanted to talk about next, which is some of the professional development opportunities, because we've had guests here, speakers and panelists at other events that they've talked about really, coming into a CISO type role, whether it's called CISO or something else, security oversight in some way, and needing to level up because they, all of us have knowledge gaps, but especially when you were doing, this role and suddenly you're sort of foisted into something like a CISO role. You guys, I know I've watched over the years, there was a little bit of professional development content, and that's really kind of taken on a life of its own. So what can people look for this year?
We do have an entire track for the C-suite that covers a wide range of information from, legal issues for CISOs to, the CISO's best friend is the pen tester. So there are definitely varied levels of content available depending on where you are in your career. But Britta, also maybe you want to talk about CISO Bootcamp and that program that's happening.
Love to talk about CISO Bootcamp. So this is a program this year. It is brought to the community by RSA Conference as well as SANS Institute, working with our friends there. It's a 1.5-day program specifically for that aspiring CISO. We do have some sitting CISOs who will be joining as well. And if folks are interested, we are currently at capacity, but I'm happy to, take an inbound email. We're working very hard to make sure it's qualified folks in the seat. We have some wonderful folks at vendors, but unfortunately, if you're not in a security-facing role, we're just working hard to make sure it's that aspiring CISO in the room. And it's a 1.5 days of really awesome content, hands-on simulation programs, networking, everything to try to build this next group of CISOs, not just educationally, but also that support network that they need from one another. And then, JJ, as I think about, the professional development and how does the profession think, Kacy, I think inclusive security would be interesting to hit here too, because that's such a important thread in the fabric of the community.
Yeah, 100%. So we are focused this year. We have a track on inclusive security that runs on Wednesday, the 26th. And the content is really designed to help folks understand the value of team building and looking for diverse perspectives in developing that team. But then we also have folks that are just going to share guidance on, how to create an apprenticeship or an internship program and ways to better retain talent and, building from within and training internally rather than trying to seek external content, but also, just job descriptions. And, I was at WESIS last week, and, one of the things that I heard repeatedly that just sort of echoed many concerns that I hear among our community is that, one of the primary issues with professional development and recruiting and retaining talent is it all goes back to that job description. And so, it's definitely an issue that we need to tackle head on. And
were they asked for 20-year Docker experience?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. For an entry-level position. Yes. Right. For an entry-level role that'll pay you a whopping $40,000 a year. Yes. Yeah. So, and that's sort of what is so fascinating to me is that it's a universal awareness. Everyone you talk to in the industry understands that this is the problem, yet it's not changing. So, it's definitely something that we need to address. And I'm super excited for, we've got Camille Stewart at NCOD that's talking, and with Rob Duhart at Walmart. We just have an incredible lineup of amazing participants on that agenda for the track on Wednesday. So definitely mark your calendars for that.
So much stuff. This is the one struggle I have with, because I always go online like a little kid, looking through, and I put in little keywords for different things. And there's just so much content happening everywhere all the time.
I know.
So I am curious, and I hope you guys, this is okay to ask, and you guys can answer this. So if somebody's kind of familiar with RSA of the past, what's different? And I'm going to ask this from a couple of different lenses. Is anything fundamentally different since the handover and the change of RSA kind of being the conference being sort of spun off from an ownership management standpoint? What is that looking like or changing, if anything? And then just from a content or extracurricular activities, is there anything new or different happening this year?
You bet. So, yes, we spun out. We are independent. That happened last year. And it's one of the really cool, awesome elements of said independence is our program chair is actually the lead investor. So Hugh Thompson. You've engaged with Hugh Thompson for many, many years. And it's that same energy, that same commitment, that same passion about what can we do for this industry. The 40,000-ish that are at RSA Conference and the millions beyond RSA Conference. So RSA Conference at its base and its commitment to neutral education has never changed. This is year 9 for me in this role. It's always been the same, and that passion of commitment and everything that's there, you see all the more. I think you'll see some additional program offerings and such that will be coming in the midterm as a result of this new ownership. And it's a great committed group of people who are really doubling down on this commitment of education to the community at large.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you guys had last year that even though I'm on the program committee, didn't know existed.
All the surprises.
I know there's always surprises. I don't know what you call it. It was a hands-on workshop, and specifically the one I went to, Sunil was doing with the cyber defense matrix.
Learning labs.
Learning labs. Yeah, that was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. We have some fantastic learning labs this year. And one that I wish I were a fraud professional, because I really want to attend Money Mules War Games with Aaron England and Yuri Ribner. They've done similar content in the past, and it just is super fascinating. Again, something that kind of evolved out of our EFG programming. But the learning labs are hands-on. They're 2 hours, and I believe we have 24 of them total. So they're definitely limited in seating. I think the capacity for most is 80. So you definitely want to reserve a seat. But we have everything from the SANS Net War tournaments to a really cool, Britta and I were talking about, some of the cool things that are happening that you wouldn't necessarily realize at RSA Conference. And, along the theme of Stronger Together, we have some family sibling stuff happening on the big stage with Chris Stapleton and his brother. And then in the learning labs, we have 2 sisters that are offering a learning lab. So there's lots of fun interactive stuff that's happening that's all connected to our theme. And it's hard not to be excited about it.
Yeah.
And the thing you didn't know, JJ, is the very first year we introduced learning labs, Mike Rothman. I went to Mike and Rich with I got this idea. Can you guys help me try this idea? And it was, so Mike was part of one of the very first original learning labs. So these are, we want to give this small group hands-on, and they are incredibly valuable experiences. And Sunil will be doing one again. So
nice.
Always popular.
And Mitch, Britta said she wasn't sure if there was any blood shed during our program committee work in our track, but I think the only blood that got shed was actually Rich Mogul's, because he wanted a couple of the things in another track, but we called dibs, and everybody was like being super polite about it. I'm like, I'm emailing him and I'm telling him we're taking these.
It is true. And that email chain just went. But yes, the passion of the program committee is very real.
It sounds like that might have been self-inflicted too by Rich, knowing this.
Yeah. I said, suck it up, Buttercup. It's ours.
He's a friend. He's a good friend.
Awesome.
One of the things that we don't officially program, or maybe you do, I'd love to hear how you think about it, is the hallway track, right? It's the interaction with colleagues, professionals, learning from, people that sort of serendipitous, unintended conversations that happen, that you go back and say, wow, that was worth the price of the ticket right there. I love being, in those dialogues and conversations.
Exactly. No, the hallway con is an incredibly important part of being there. And it's interesting, Mitch, because we always, networking, and in the surveying that we do, and we do a lot of surveying, people really value the networking. And yet, by and large, our audience is introverted. So how do you help the folks that have trouble engaging in those conversations to engage in the conversation so that they have that network? And that was one of the origins of Learning Labs. It was kind of, how do we trick you into having a conversation in a small, safe place against something so that hopefully you're able to have that same conversation with this really smart, nice JJ person you just met sitting there, and you're going to see her later in the conference and later in the conference. So Learning Labs was done to try, it teaches you something, sure, but it also helps you to engage in a small group. Birds of a Feathers, we have 36-ish. No, we have 36. More than that of this year.
36 or 38.
That are happening throughout conference. Again, small group conversations. And those are you having a conversation with people you don't know. But then there are the people that you know. So how are you going to find them? So there's sitting spaces design. Our Sandbox program, JJ, I'm sure you've stumbled into Sandbox too, which is a surprise even to some of our veterans. Oh, wow, I didn't know you had this area. These great villages that are brought to you with, small hands-on things, fun engagement. Cyber Ops happens over there. So we've tried to create lots of ways to help you find others, have conversations with others, find new people. New this year, we're introducing on Sunday evening. So the night before the whole thing kicks off at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, we're having a reception that's specifically geared for first timers. You're brand new to RSA Conference, this big, scary thing. I don't even know anyone. How am I going to find some people? Along with our Loyalty Plus folks. So, think of this as the frequent flyers of RSA Conference, those who have come multiple years to hopefully help make connections, brand new, experienced in this. Hopefully you're going to meet some new people from those two different parts of things, continue the relationship during the week and hopefully beyond.
Yeah. And Britta, as an introvert, speaking for the introverts.
Are you an introvert?
I am.
Wow, you hide yourself well.
Is like some of us, it's not that we can't, it's not that we're uncomfortable starting a conversation. We just don't want to talk to people.
Yeah,
it's very true.
But I do appreciate all of the opportunities to network, and there is always something going on, and there are so many ways to engage with people if you just want to have some social time, if you just kind of want to lurk and hang out and and be in a group of people that don't already know each other, so you don't feel like you're the weird person. But yeah, sometimes introverts, we just don't want to talk to people. We just
it's just too much.
It's exhausting. It is exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. We can be good listeners also, right?
Yeah. There will be right on Broadcast Alley, right, where you will be based, Tech Strong. I'm not going to totally spoil the surprise, but remember a few years ago when we had our button wall where you could find the characteristic that identified with you. There's going to be something somewhat similar that will become a group art installation that will help you learn more about each other, that will help you. So you who like to people observe, JJ, it's going to be interesting. Mitch, it's going to be right down the hall from you, but it's really going to, over the course of the week, become a interesting manifestation of who we are as a community and the strength we draw from each other. So look for that on in Broadcast Alley, and you'll see that kind of develop over the course of the week.
Before we get is in Moscone West, right?
Yes, Moscone West, level 1, West, yeah. Right as you're going into the West Stage keynote room.
So I know we're going to be close to time soon. I have to ask a very important question because I like food. And I've heard a couple of my favorite restaurants right next to Moscone have closed. What's going on over there? Is there new stuff opening? Are there things just, what is the food situation?
Can I eat? Will there be food for me to eat? Yeah, it's as with any big city, there have been changes that have happened. There's new things going in. There's new things that will be added to. We will make sure you do not starve, JJ. That would be, an awful thing. And then there's a lot of things happening from our sponsors, the whole community that's bringing different things happening over the course of the week. So do not fret. You will be taken care of.
Yeah, I feel like if you play it right and you go to enough booths in the expo hall, you can pretty much not have to pay for a lunch or a dinner or a drink or a coffee your whole time at RSA. There's a
now that is an experienced attendee talking.
If you plot it right, yes. Wear good tennis shoes, right? Make sure you hydrate and make sure you plan your meals for the week. Yes, You got it.
So, Mitch, because we're talking about a lot of the RSA stuff, obviously I'm going to cry because I have to miss it this year. What's the TechStrong presence and what are we doing there at RSA?
Thank you for asking. A couple things. On Monday, we actually have our annual DevOps Connect event, which is kind of its own day track that's happening as part of RSA. And if you're into kind of software and security and understand that intersection, the theme of that is DevSecOps is the new DevOps, right? So it's really all about security all throughout the software process. You mentioned SBOMs, Britta, things like that. But it's really several talks about that intersection of software and security. So that's a big event for TechStrong.
And Caroline Wong is speaking at that, right, Mitch?
Caroline is. John Willis, a number of luminaries, very notable people in the industry.
She's
so we're excited about that. And then we'll be doing interviews on Broadcast Alley. Our TechStrong booth will be set up. You'll see people with cameras and people sitting around tables talking. That's actually live streamed from the event. And we talk to speakers, we talk to just practitioners, other folks that kind of share what the experience of the conference is like, maybe what they're doing, kind of focusing on. It's sort of that hallway conversation, that track onto a streaming platform. And you can watch that on any of the TechStrong sites like securityboulevard.com, techstrong.tv. That'll be up and alive there. And then we'll also post those after the conference, so they're available for replay. And we'll be just enjoying it, being part of the fabric of, with 40,000 of our closest friends, like everybody else, at the event. So we're always looking forward to it. I think I've gone RSA, maybe MC since 2004, something like that. So it's great to be there a number of years and kind of seeing the growth and development of it. It's just kind of mind blowing, actually. It's phenomenal.
Mitch, was last year your first talking here?
That was my first talk at RSAC. Yes, you are. Enjoyed it very much. It was a great experience and hope to get to do that again someday. I was actually talking about the software experience as part of security and how software is different in the ways that we create it and where there's opportunity to inject and influence security into that software creation process, DevOps, Agile, things like that. So I had great feedback. Really loved doing it.
Awesome.
Well, it looks like we're coming up on our time here. JJ, any parting thought before we wrap things up?
No, other than I'm going to miss the event this year. It's just such a great lineup. I do look forward to some of the on-demand content that I can consume later. I hope everybody that goes stops by, says hi to Mitch and the crew. You probably won't see Britta and Kacy. They're usually running around. By. Yeah. I feel like, though, if you see Hugh Thompson, and when you see Hugh, you've seen Hugh, you should run up to him and say, hi, Hugh, and then tell him Mitch and JJ on the podcast said to say hi. And let's just make his life absolutely wonderful, because he's just one of those people that just loves other humans, and his smile is just contagious. And if you're having a bad day and you say hi to Hugh, the rest of your week will be amazing.
This is everything. It is true. Yes, he would love that. Do it.
One more phenomenal human as part of the RSAC group. Appreciate it. Well, Britta, Kacy, wonderful having you on. JJ, always a pleasure doing this together. Since you have a physicist as part of one of your keynotes, I wanted to make sure I was doing this accurately, using a term from physics, but I looked up singularity, and one of the definitions is a point at which a function takes on an infinite value RSAC is the singularity of our industry. And thank you for doing that. We appreciate the hard work you do to bring us all together to create that point of infinite value for each of us. So thanks for being on CISO Talk with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Indeed. See you in April, Mitch.
See you in April. So be sure to check us out on techstrong.tv. CISO Talk is there. It's available via video. You can also go to CISOTalkPodcast.com and get the audio version available through your favorite podcasting platform, of course, too. So JJ, always fun. Enjoyed it. We're going to miss you at RSAC, but I know it's for important things. So we'll see you at the next one, I guess. All right, everybody. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next show. Take care.